Hi, I'm Adina Porter, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Damien and Ann.
Damien, I haven't told you I did this yet, and I feel like we're 11 months into quarantine. Next month, we will hit the full year, and I did something I haven't done in 11 months, and that is I cut my hair. But it's not as dramatic as you think. Don't get too excited.
Does it look short?
No. It's not that short. It's just shorter than it was.
Did you get it cut or did
I got
you
it cut? I got it cut. But you're not seeing it in its best state right now. But I reached a point where you were like, it was like beyond my nipples, which has never been true.
Yeah, did you donate it to Locks for Love?
I didn't. Nobody wanted the like 6 strands of hair that existed, like my broken ends. But I knew, like, I had known for a long time that it was like time to cut my hair, and I didn't do it. But, it was like I kept getting that thing where people would be like, I would get on Zoom and people would be like, Ann, your hair is so long. And then you keep waiting for them to be like, it looks great, I love it. And it would just be like, that would be the end of the sentence. And you're like, thank you, very cool. So I did finally get it cut, and I feel somewhat like a new woman, but there's still a part of me that just wants to like shave it or bleach it or do something completely different with it. But then I realized I wanted to shave the left side of my head, which I think is the best side of my face. Do you know, I finally realized that I know which side of my face is the better one, which I never knew before.
Okay.
But then I realized I have a mole on the side of my head. Sorry, I'm getting very into
like
here.
that.
But I don't need the mole to be exposed right now. So like I'm considering it. But anyway, I was ready to do it, and then the mole made me second guess it.
Yeah, you really slept on like the daring hair choice for the entire year that we've been in a fucking bubble.
I know, and now it's like I'm going back into the office from time to time, and I still have to see people, but they get to see me at my sweatiest. But yeah, no, I haven't done anything dramatic to my hair, so I'm thinking maybe now is the time when I finally have to see people again.
Well, congratulations. It looks healthy. It looks buoyant.
Thank you.
Have you ever talked on the podcast about your fear of braids? Like fish braids or a French braid?
I hate all braids. It's true that I don't think I have talked about it, but Jeremy, our dear friend Jeremy, commented on a picture of me that I posted. It was like, "Ooh, that baby's ready for a braid." And I was like, get the fuck off of my grid. I don't know why I find them so disgusting. But when I went on a date with my now partner person, she was wearing a braid, and I noted it at the very end of our like 3-hour first date.
You were like, oh no.
And I was like, oh God, motherfucker. And then I like sat with it as I took my subway ride home, and I thought, you know what? It didn't even bother me. And that was telling. So now I think there's a part of me that has come around to braids because I'm forced to look at them fairly often in my life. So I feel like it's what is that where you like have a phobia, and then like on Maury they make you do the exposure where it's like, I'm afraid of mustard, and then like out come 4 PAs with like a plate of mustard.
I would really...
The phobias episode of Maury were always my favorite.
My wish for this month would be if you would go to bed with... hold on.
I don't like where this is going.
With braids, and then I would like to see you with like hair like crimped the next day for me. Okay. You know, like how Sarah Paulson looked in American Horror Story Hotel, I think it was. There's that like meme of her on her phone, like looking maniacal. That's what I want you to look like with
okay, so I think that requires multiple small braids for my very thin hair. So I will do that. I'll do that for you and for you only, and then I'll post the picture.
Thank you so much.
Folks, welcome to another episode of You Might Know Her From with Damien and Ann.
I am Damien.
I am Ann, and we are here back with you week after week, shooting the shit with each other and a character actress that has, sadly for her, agreed to sit in a Zoom call with us. We used to do it in person, now we're doing it on Zoom, and so thank you for joining us for another episode. It's so good to hear you, to hear us, to be back in your orbit. We miss you.
Can I say something I wanted to share with you and the rest of the listeners is that a few weeks ago we were talking about Pepe the Prawn, this fucking like Muppet. I'm going to call him a neo Muppet, and he's a shrimp. And I was like, Ann, why are you following fucking Pepe the Prawn? And it went back and forth. So I was like, hey, listeners, if you love the Muppets but hate Pepe the Prawn or like Pepe the Prawn, DM me. And I heard from folks that I don't know in the real world. So I was so grateful. Someone told me I love the OG Muppets, but I love Pepe. He's the best. And I said, the best Muppet? And he said, well, maybe not the best, but he's really funny.
He's like the best. Like he's a good Muppet.
He's a good person. Yeah, he's a good prawn. And then someone else tweeted at both of us, and they tweeted a link out to I guess Pepe's existed longer than I thought.
This is the 25th anniversary of Pepe. If I remember my
God.
research for the show notes correctly, it was established in 1996, which is at this point, I mean, he's
like
out of college.
Muppets Tonight when they did the Muppets on TGIF. We were in like sixth grade. Yeah.
I mean, in my head, I was like, he's definitely in the 2010s, but no, 1996, babe.
So that person tweeted us a interview that Pepe the Prawn did with none other than Bonnie Hunt. And I have to say, I was really charmed by Pepe. It was really funny. His timing, or the Muppeteers' timing, was good. Bonnie was yes-anding what the fucking Muppet was doing.
You know I love Bonnie Hunt. Bonnie Hunt and her best friend, David Allen Greer. I love her.
I laughed out loud a lot during this interview. So I want to thank those listeners for sharing their Muppet thoughts. And also, if you haven't, those listeners, please leave us a review. You can put the fucking shrimp prawn emoji. There's two. There's the shrimp, like fried shrimp A-OK. And then there's also like the prawn, like raw shrimp in the ocean. Send us that in a fucking written review for iTunes. It would be huge help. And for the rest of you, please dive in our DMs and also leave us a review. It's the best thing you can do for us to keep doing this thing we're doing. Apparently, it matters a lot. So anyway, thank you to the Pepe people. Thank you to David and
Robert Simon for tweeting us that genius Bonnie Hunt interview. It's definitely, we're going to put it in the show notes at this point. It's brilliant.
Yes, thank you, folks. And while you're sending us things about Pepe, please leave us a little written review because this stuff helps.
So kind of you to mention Sarah Paulson's crimped hair in American Horror Story Hotel, because this week's guest, Adina Porter, is a part of the American Horror Story universe, and we got into all of the Ryan Murphy of it all with her. But she also has a lot of theatrical cred. She's an Obie winner. She is
she's also been in many gay things, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I don't know that it made the final cut. I know that it didn't make the final cut, but we talked about she was in Swoon, which was this Craig Chester starring indie, was one of the films of the new queer cinema movement of the 90s. She had a part in The Fluffer, where
she played a lesbian.
She played a lesbian, and also it is a movie that I was renting on DVD in 2003 from OG Netflix, and waiting for the sex scene, which never came because it was a real movie.
She's also has one scene in Gia where she kind of dresses down Angelina Jolie. My favorite thing that she told us was that she was at an event with Angelina Jolie once and she didn't recognize her, and I was like, well, that's her problem, because Adina does has this great monologue in Gia, which was obviously very much a sexual awakening for me as well.
We had a total ball with Adina. She was down to clown with us, so we are always appreciative when the actor is ready for the idiocy that is coming out of our mouths.
You might know her from True Blood,
The Newsroom,
The 100,
Underground,
Lackawanna Blues,
The Morning Show,
and American Horror Story Cult, Roanoke, and Apocalypse. We are so excited to be here with actress Adina Porter. Adina, welcome to You Might Know Her From.
Hello. Thanks very much for having me.
Adina, you were Emmy nominated for your role in American Horror Story Cult, where you play Beverly Hope, a reporter fed up with her position at the TV station and the increased harassment from Trump supporters. She, of course, gets wrapped up in the clown cult headed by Kai Anderson and ends up doing things like locking folks in a coffin while they're alive, hatcheting one man in the head, shooting another man in the head with a nail gun. This is all, traditional American Horror Story stuff. But the show was unique in that it aired in 2017 and was rehashing the 2016 election and the Trump era while it was still happening. So can you talk a little bit about, was this traumatic? Was it cathartic? Both? Neither?
It was cathartic because the night after the election, 2016, I was up in Vancouver, Canada. I was shooting The 100 at the time. And I remember being shaken to the core. I remember not being able to sleep. I remember my Republican lover at the time not texting me back, which really pissed me off.
Ooh. Oh my God.
And I remember thinking, shake it off, Adina, just shake it off. It's not going to be that big a deal. You've had other presidents before, shake it off, but I couldn't shake it off. And then when Sarah Paulson had that scream when he was elected, I felt, okay, validated. Like, I'm not crazy. Other people are also shaken to the core. But as it turned out, it wasn't that big a deal. And he hardly changed America at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. There's Trumpism and there's white supremacy. And maybe because I'm Black, I'm always kind of like, is that what I think it is? Don't be paranoid, Adina. Well, I ain't paranoid no more.
Yeah,
so
it absolutely is that.
And so I've always, I love working, and I started out in the theater. I guess I'm still in the theater as soon as it opens up again, and I can go back to it. But I always think of American Horror Story as like theater with a budget. A really nice budget. And to be able to have a project that we can work on with what was happening in real time, I felt beyond privileged to be able to do that.
In American Horror Story Roanoke, I'm going to set this up for listeners who might not be familiar. 2 actors portray the principal roles for the first half of the season in this show within a show device. You play Lee, a recovering addict and woman suspected of killing her husband. Angela Bassett plays the actress playing Lee in these quote-unquote reenactments.
Right.
So in doing our research, I read an interview where you said you didn't know like what any of the other actors were doing until you all came together for the back half of the season, where it's sort of like a Big Brother style, like Roanoke House. How did you find the character of Lee, knowing that Angela Bassett was also portraying her? Were you pulling any sort of like Angela Bassett isms into your character?
I'm sorry, no, I wasn't.
I mean, I was watching and I was like trying to imagine the two of you going to lunch and being like, she's going to do this. Or I was imagining like that you were like, I know how Angela Bassett may approach this, so let me do that. And then I read that article and I was like, nah, you thwarted what my question was going to be.
Gosh, no. You know, when we shot that, it was just, we were talking heads. And it was just the actor, the crew. Even then, I didn't have a whole script. It was my second season on American Horror Story, but my first season, I was only in 1 episode. I had to audition again for Roanoke. I did find out, though, that Ryan Murphy watched the first season of Murder House, that episode that I was in, I guess to check to see that he still liked my work before I was hired for Roanoke. And they kept on saying, more is coming. But I was just like, I'm just so happy to be here. So no, we were like puzzle pieces, and I knew my piece of the puzzle. And then all I could do was just trust that the producers, the writers, they all knew what they were doing and plugged my piece into the whole.
Can I ask you a little something in terms of the American Horror Story universe? What happens when they throw you something in episode 8 that they didn't tell you was true about your character in episode 3? Like, you're a witch, actually. How do you reconcile that as an actor?
You go, shucks, I wish I knew that information. I wish I could do it again.
Yeah.
But then I just kind of go with it. I remember once it was in Apocalypse.
You were like, which one?
Yeah, exactly. Apocalypse. And can I tell you that I'm beyond grateful that I had that kind of problem?
Of course.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
And so you start out and you are in quarantine because there has been a horrible apocalypse. And can I tell you that in the beginning of quarantine, I was like, I played this on television.
Yeah.
I cannot believe we're doing this for real.
Yeah.
You know, and saying lines to your lovers in Canada, but the border's closed. Anywho, So I was like, oh, when they gave me this information, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to do the second part with an accent because I was playing a character before, but now I'm a voodoo princess. So I'm going to do this part with an accent. And they were like, no, you're not. Don't do that. No. So I was like, oh, well, that was my creative part that I was going to introduce to it. And it got knocked down. But, it's a collaborative effort, and I do my bit and I trust that the producers, the writers, they know what they're doing. And then, we're filming the 10th season. So I just do my bit.
Can you tell us anything about the 10th season other than that we know you're in it? It's been announced. Anything else you can share?
If I tell you anything else, I won't be in the 11th season or the 12th season.
Yeah, we need that for you.
And then there's a spinoff that's happening. So,
Yeah. Okay. You won an Obie Award for your performance in the original production of Suzan-Lori Parks' play Venus, the somewhat true story of Saartjie Baartman, a Black woman brought from South Africa to England in the early 19th century, sold to a freak show, and billed as Venus Hottentot, who was then, made to dance for British audiences. I actually saw the recent revival at the Signature, which was my first introduction to the play. I love Suzan-Lori Parks' work. But can you talk a little bit about what sort of preparation you did for that show, since it's based on a real woman, but the story is somewhat fictionalized?
I was doing a show out of town. But when the audition came in, I remembered, I had to get from, I think it was Philadelphia to New York to get to the Public Theater to audition. I took a Greyhound bus to get there. I thought a Greyhound bus, and however long it took, it might have been 72 hours, was very close to the Mid-Atlantic Passage. So I was prepared. Right. I remember at one point at the audition turning and showing them my butt and saying, this is typecasting. I got in touch with the part of me that felt not enough, that felt like I needed white approval, that as a dark-skinned Black woman, I've had many opportunities and experiences where I felt like I wasn't enough. So I kind of tapped into all of those experiences, knew the words backwards and forwards so that I could allow my nerves to give myself permission to just be. And I did it. I remember doing what I always do when I audition for anything big, which is not researching the director and the writer. Because I don't want to build them up really big and then compare their strengths to my weaknesses and feel like, oh, well, I'm not on their level. So I didn't realize that Alan Ball had won an Oscar when I auditioned for him for True Blood, and I didn't know their background. I did know of Suzan-Lori Parks before the audition. I remember I did a reading of Toni Morrison's play Emmett Till that George C. Wolfe directed. And we all were invited out to dinner afterwards. And I remember being at this long table with Toni Morrison, George C. Wolfe, and a whole bunch of other people. And this one woman who was really quiet, who sat directly in front of me. And I just was happy to be there. As an actor, I was happy to be in bed. And I just sat there and didn't say anything. And then when I got home to my apartment in Hoboken, New Jersey, I remember I wanted to listen to some music. And I was going through my albums. And I saw one album. And I recognized the face of the woman who I was sitting across from. And it was Nina Simone.
Stop it.
Oh my gosh, Adina.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No.
What a table.
Yeah. I've lived a charmed life. Lived a charmed life.
Okay. Adina, on True Blood, you famously played Tara's mother, Lettie Mae, an alcoholic turned sober preacher's wife with a complicated and at times abusive relationship with your daughter. So this is one of your first mainstream credits and certainly put you on our radars. True Blood got like really crazy, but our friend group was always firmly in the like Tara's mom is the best actress on this show camp. So leads me to a two-part question. When True Blood ended, did you have to make a concerted effort to not be typecast or not be seen as quote unquote Tara's mom? And two, what kind of like actor's trick did you pull out of your bag to play drunk so convincingly that it wasn't like a caricature?
I got this audition to go in and HBO, so you're impressed with HBO. I was pregnant at the time, and I remember I did this test to see how the pregnancy was going. And I remember saying to myself, gosh, I'm not worried about this audition. I'm worried about that test that I just took and the health of this baby. And I remember one of my acting teachers said, have something else to think about for the audition so you're not like obsessing about the audition. Like plan a time with your girlfriends afterwards or a nice dinner, something so you're not concentrating on the audition. And I had this really important test that I was thinking about. So I did the audition. I remember Alan asked me if I could make her more drunk. And I don't remember exactly what I did, except for maybe just kind of like really relaxing the body and kind of like you're melting, I think that's something physically that I can do to try to simulate being more drunk. And then afterwards, I did what I always do, which is ask that I take the note. And he said yes. And I said, that's good because I'm more used to playing high than drunk. And they laughed at that. Then after the audition, I'm driving home and I get a phone call from my doctor. And the doctor said that the test is really bad. The test result is really bad. We don't think this pregnancy is going to go full term. And you probably should abort. So I am shaking in my car because of this. And then my agents ring through. I take the phone call and they say, you got True Blood. And I remember thinking, God is funny. God is funny. I didn't know that it was True Blood and what it was going to be. I just knew it was a job on HBO. So that's my audition for True Blood story. Looking back on it now, would I have wanted the pregnancy to go through? No. I have 2 children by adoption and I am beyond happy. I have a very tight vagina. Originally, I found out that Tara's mom was only supposed to be in the first season. I was supposed to do 8 episodes and then be killed off. But because they liked my work, I ended up staying on for 7 seasons. So, beyond grateful. Beyond grateful.
Full disclosure, freshening up for this, I was like, wait, I have to remember what happened to Tara's mom. I assume she's dead or became a vampire. And then I looked it up and I was like, no, she hung on to the last episode. Good for her.
Yeah, they made me a series regular the last season.
Yeah.
And then, yes, I had to go through this whole thing of like, after it was over, it was like, how old is she? But what I would do is go to premieres, dress like the outfit I wore for the Emmys after party. And then once I dressed like that, they were like, whoa, she could look like something different. So I think that's one of the reasons, that's how I got the Newsroom, because I definitely looked different in the Newsroom than I did in True Blood.
To offer context to this, so you are like maybe 7-8 years older than Rutina Wesley, who played your daughter on the show. So like I remember I was like, oh, cool, you were 36 when you were playing Tara's mom. And it was like they made you seem like you were 65. And I was rewatching it this week and I was like, oh, you look young and beautiful, but like they like don't put a lot of makeup on you.
Well, yes. And I also chose to wear a wig because originally I had my hair a certain little to-do, and then the writer's strike happened.
Mm.
And in between the writer's strike and us going back, I shaved my head. And then when I went back, I was like, oh, I got to look like how I looked before. So I wore a wig because Lettie Mae would never have the guts to have natural hair. She didn't have enough self-love for that. So a bad wig, clothes from Goodwill, was able to transform me into Lettie Mae. Oh, and teeth. They darkened my teeth.
Fake teeth are our favorite acting thing. Can you tell us what they did for your teeth?
It wasn't fake. It's just that we colored them.
Oh, I love that too.
Okay.
I love that too. They painted them.
Yeah, because, see, I spent money for these teeth and Lettie Mae wouldn't have that money. So.
Right. It seems like there's a True Blood reboot in development. Can you tell us anything? Are you involved in that at all?
Not that I know of, but I did ask my people to look into it because, Lettie Mae was still alive at the end. Yeah, and a job's a job. So
also, maybe it's a prequel and you could still play, you could play her but look like yourself opposed to, sort of, you could just be young Lettie Mae,
I will be anything. Just employ me. I will be anything.
Adina, you played Ricky, one of Nanny's boarders in the HBO film adaptation of the Ruben Santiago Hudson play Lackawanna Blues. Ricky, I loved. She wore men's suits and a fedora and lusted after Rosie Perez's character. But this was a really great adaptation. The film had a Black writer, director, and an incredible cast that included, just for our audience, Esapatha Murkison, Mos Def, Lou Gossett Jr., Terrence Howard, Charlene Woodard, Michael K. Williams, Macy Gray, Jeffrey Wright, and Carmen Ejogo, among others. It was incredible. It's a beautiful adaptation. Was there a palpable difference for you being on that set, working with a team and cast comprised mostly of people of color?
My gut reaction, my first is no. George C. Wolfe directed it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is my fourth project with George C. Wolfe. He told me that he chose to start shooting the entire film with my scene because he wanted to ground himself working with an actor who he's worked with before. And because we were working with so many theater folks, it felt more like that than Blackness. It felt more like, okay, theater folks. And I can tell the difference because when I did Underground, that felt like a Black movie, a Black series.
Mm.
We filmed it in what were original slave quarters in Baton Rouge at this university that had taken these slave quarters and made them into, it was an exhibit so people could walk through them. And everyone felt like we are on hollow ground. And even though it's 100 degrees and there's all these mosquitoes, no one would dare complain because of who has been here before. And before we started shooting, we went to a plantation for a tour to kind of get ourselves into it. And it was a group, there was like 10 of us and one white person. And I remember the tour guide was like, this is like a basketball team. And all of us were like,
oh, yeah.
Okay, get ready. And as Black people, like when you have to deal with racist white people and like how to make them feel comfortable and like how much you can tolerate. And walking through the plantation, and it was a plantation that was owned by their forefathers. So, and it had passed down in the generations, and now to keep it afloat, they were giving tours of it. And you can tell that they kind of changed the narration a bit for the Black audience. So they talked about how the mastery of the woodwork and how beautiful the woodwork was. And people took such pride in their work. And all of us thought to themselves and talked about it when we were on the bus ride home. I wonder how much pride they would have had in their work if they were paid for their work. But at the gift shop, there was a big poster of 12 Years a Slave, because 12 Years a Slave was also part of it was filmed at this plantation. So there's a big poster of 12 Years a Slave, and underneath is a caption, and it said 12 Years a Slave, starring Brad Pitt. No other actors were listed. So we all thought, Brad Pitt's in the movie for 2 seconds. He was one of the producers of it. But that was kind of their way of seeing the film. Or maybe just because, they want to claim Brad Pitt. Who doesn't want to claim Brad Pitt? But so Lackawanna Blues, that felt like a theater piece. Underground felt like, oh, okay, this is a cast of Black folks.
Adina, we have entered the part of the show. This is our rapid fire. This is really rapid fire for Anne and I because we're throwing all different topics at you. You can take your time. Theoretically, we are wrapping up.
Okay.
Okay. Adina, your first acting teacher was Butterfly McQueen, perhaps best known as Prissy in Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
She was a member of your church growing up in Harlem. But did you know who she was when she coached the kids for the Christmas pageant? What do you remember about her?
I remember she was shriveled and small. I remember she still had the same voice. I mean, I was a baby, so I just was like, I was angel number 3 or something, So it wasn't like she really gave me any kind of acting tips except for, stand up straight. I kind of put it all together later on when I found out who she was. She had the exact same voice. And maybe it's kind of revisionist history once I discovered who she was. Years later, decades later, I discovered how she died. Do you know how she died?
No.
Her kerosene lantern spilled over and caused a fire, and she died in that fire. And down south, because she couldn't afford to live up in Harlem anymore, so it was down south that this happened. And because of that, I started buying property, because I did not want to be in that situation when I am that age. So I now own 5 houses. So 2 properties that I own and then 3 that are rentals. So that's what I learned from my first acting teacher.
Okay, you've said that you showed Joan Collins your Tinder matches on the set of Apocalypse, and she didn't approve of any of them. What was Joan looking for in a potential suitor for you, and did she have any dating advice?
She didn't like their tats. Yeah. She just was like, they're all tatted up. What's all this up with tatted up? She didn't like their jobs. She wanted men that were employed.
Yeah.
And so her idea of, what's in it for me? They aren't employed and they're all tatted up. She just wanted me to go out, find some other ones and bring them back. I thought that we could bond being married multiple times, but she was not impressed. And one of them that has tons of tats is like a cybersecurity expert. That's a very good job.
That's a good job.
And it's recession proof. It's pandemic proof. But I saw what her husband did on the set, and none of my guys would do that. So, we have different requirements.
Okay, Adina, you appeared in the post 9/11 starry Broadway revival of The Women alongside Jennifer Coolidge, Kristen Johnston, Rue McClanahan, Cynthia Nixon, Amy Ryan, Jennifer Tilly, Mary Bond Davis, Mary Louise Wilson, Lisa Emery, and 2 former You Might Know Her From guests, Julie Halston and Heather Matarazzo. Who was the best person of this bunch, and who was the most worst, challenging, demanding, strangest, eccentric, funny actor?
Okay, so who was the most challenging? A brunette was the most challenging. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I love it. Okay.
And who was the best? Cynthia Nixon, who I just texted with this morning. I had another place that I was supposed to live when doing that production. And then 9/11 happened. And that apartment fell through. And Cynthia Nixon's mom was in the hospital. And she needed someone to pick up her mail and take it to her. And so Cynthia said, okay, you and your boyfriend can stay at my mom's place if someone delivers her mail every day. Well, my husband would deliver her mail to Anne, and my husband and Anne really hit it off, and they became close friends. And I'm beyond grateful that Cynthia and her mom gave us a place to stay. And my husband and Anne have since both passed. My husband first and then Anne later on. And I remember talking to Cynthia when her mom passed and just thinking that my husband, Madison, and her are up in heaven reading books. They created their own book club. Yeah, she came to our rescue when we didn't have a place to stay, and beyond grateful.
You play Jennifer Aniston's agent on the morning show, and one of your scenes is a phone call with her where she's asking you to help negotiate the terms of her contract. We need to know, who read Jennifer Aniston's lines opposite you? Was it her? Was it a PA? Was it no one? Was it a recording of her voice?
No. It was Jennifer Aniston's stand-in.
Okay. All right.
But she is beyond kind. She is very generous, but she wasn't on the set that day.
The tone of that show is wild. It is wild. I really thought that it was going to be one thing when I started watching it, and it was the other.
You and me both, sister. Because there's another it's another job where I didn't get the script beforehand.
Okay.
And I didn't audition because it was an offer. So I see these people and I'm thinking, oh, it's a rom-com.
Yeah. Yes.
So I show up with my hair in curlers because if I'm a high-powered attorney and my hair is straight and I'm black, it's going to be in curlers. And I was in bed, so I was like, I'm wearing comfortable pajamas. Took 4 hours to figure out my outfit and my hair. And I didn't shave because I didn't know I was going to be in a lingerie. So during the fitting that happened that day, they knock on my door with a raise and they're like, I was like,
no. The nerve.
Come on now.
The nerve.
No.
I hate that. I hate it.
No. I was like, I was going to. So,
they were trying to not subtly nudge you.
Right. So I was shaving and everything else. And so I was going to do it. And so believe me, that's not how I prepare. So I was a bit rattled when it's time to get into bed. And then I had to get out of bed and I was like, did I just flash the cameraman when I got out of bed? Long story short, I didn't feel like it was my best work. And then something happened. I'm not too sure what, but I had to go back and shoot the entire scene again.
Oh.
And this time, I was prepared and I knocked it out of the park. And between you and me and whoever, I think that was my husband an intervention. I think my husband on the other side said, give my girl another chance.
Here we go. I guess I'm getting these questions. Okay, in American Horror Story Roanoke, your leg is turned into jerky and fed to Angela Bassett and Sarah Paulson. So, Adina, if you had to be force-fed the leg jerky of one of your American Horror Story co-stars, whose would you choose?
Give her some names.
Yeah, okay. Evan Peters, Angela Bassett, Sarah Paulson, Joan Collins, Jeffrey Boyer Chapman, Billy Lord, Lily Rabe.
My first response was Angela Bassett.
Yeah.
oh, only because she's got a butt like mine, and you want a little bit of fat, in your food. So all those other people are too skinny because, they're just not. And black people are always seasoned. So I just, I want some seasoning. I don't know, vegan fed meat. No, I want some seasoning. I want someone who eats bacon.
You starred in The Fluffer, a movie that takes place in the porn industry. Adina Porter, what kind of porn do you like? We'll go first. My favorite porn scene just so happens to have an SNL episode starring Rosie O'Donnell where Whitney Houston guest stars happening on in the background. It's my favorite scene. I like amateur porn. I don't really like produced porn. Damien?
I also like amateur. You don't even need to see a face for me. I want it to feel real, like it was real guerrilla style shot.
Oh.
Like a camera, like an iPhone set up in like a stairwell or something.
That's super easy for me. EricaLust.com.
Oh.
I now have to pay for my porn. I have to, guys. I have to support the artist.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think that SAG should have allowed porn actors in years ago.
Boom.
Because of DVD sales that we're alive today, as well as protection. They need to be protected. One of the reasons why I love EricaLust.com is because they have women that look like me. Like, oh, it's okay that you have a zit on your ass? You know what I mean? They're not going to, edit that out. I don't like amateur porn. I like it produced.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I like that they tell me if it's 8 minutes long, 15 minutes long, 12 minutes long, because I don't have a lot of time. I'm a mom with 2 kids. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So let me
TRT
know,
matters.
Yeah. But I love the line from The Fluffer, I love dick, which is one of my favorite lines ever that I had.
Yeah.
And so, and it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, EricaLust.com.
All right.
It's a great plug. Great plug.
Adina, your name is Adina. How do you think John Travolta would say it?
Before Adina or after he learned his lesson? I think he'd probably make it short and call me Dina, Dini.
That's
something like that.
Hey, A. Hey, A. I love what you did in that scene, A.
Yeah, something like that. But, he's a fellow widower, so I'm going to be kind to him because he's,
We love John Travolta here in total earnestness. We love him.
Yeah.
Okay, you worked with Shirley MacLaine in the film The Last Word. What kind of star was she on set?
I ran into Shirley MacLaine after we worked together in Malibu. I was with a friend and a bunch of her friends on a birthday excursion. And we were wine tasting. And it was like we were at our 7th wine place. And we were having a meal, and there was Shirley MacLaine eating at her favorite restaurant by herself. And I came over and I introduced myself again, and she remembered me, and she invited us all to join her. And it totally elevated the mom's birthday wine tasting excursion because we are now with a legend. It also made me look really good because then, I was not just the black mom in the group, but I was the black mom who brought, star power to the party.
That's cool.
But on set, she was the utmost professional, meaning we got it in 3 takes. Don't make me do a 4th. That's Shirley MacLaine.
Old pro, yeah. Total pro.
Total pro.
In a similar category, Chaz Bono was on American Horror Story Cult, and it appears that he took you and a few of your co-stars to see his mom, Cher, in Las Vegas. Describe that night for us.
Oh my God. That was like, so we're on set and, he's like, well, we should go like see my mom, road trip. And everyone's ears were like, what? Road trip? Yes. But no one had the time to actually do a road trip. We all had to fly there. It was magnificent because we went out to dinner beforehand and nobody took the check. We all had to pay separately. And I remember, of course, we were eating and drinking and we ran a little bit late. And so we had to run to get to the theater on time. But it also was a greater reason for all of us to like run en masse to get to the theater. And we were asking him to text her to hold the curtain. And I remember Sarah was yelling, Mommy, we're coming, Mommy, we're coming. I mean, we're such exhibitionists, so that we arrived like just before the curtain, rises, but everyone else is in their seats so that, it's an entrance. But we have to like walk by other people to get to our seats in the orchestra section. We cheered the loudest. There is footage of me tripping because I was a little tipsy. I think it was tipsy or maybe something, but I was not completely
level.
I was very comfortable. And I think Billy caught me. So I never hit the ground, but, I kind of caught me. And then we had an audience with her afterwards. And we had to wait for her to get ready. And she greeted us. We were all allowed to take a picture with her. And she recognized me from my work. And that made me feel beyond, I jumped up and down. I was like, Cher knows me. And my picture with her, because she took individual pictures with all of us, my picture was on my Tinder profile and it's on my Raya profile.
As it should be.
Very smart.
As it should be.
Yeah.
Adina Porter, this has been a total pleasure. Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
Thank you so much for wanting to talk to me. It's been a lot of fun.
Let me tell you something. That 2001 revival of the women is going to make us. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It is the credit that will not die, and thank God, because it features so many women that we are invested in. Who is the brunette that Adina Porter mentioned that was the worst in show? We don't know.
Yeah, we got to scroll through that cast list.
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't Heather Matarazzo.
We know it wasn't Heather. We loved Heather.
Yeah, we're going to figure it out. Don't worry. If there's anybody who's on top of it, it's us. You know what we call it? Journalism. Okay, so super important thing we need to do today is connect Adina to next week's guest. And listen, we are always super excited, but I'm going to tell you, I'm super excited for this one.
Yay.
Adina is on Anne's favorite show, The Morning Show.
Let me tell you, folks, I haven't finished The Morning Show yet. I'm saving that last episode, so I'm going to watch it before next week, and I will have a full report on the finale. I can't wait for season 2. I've been saving it. It's just like I'm savoring the beauty of that very strange show. I love that Adina co-signed. She was like, you and me both, sister. That show is weird.
So can I just tell y'all that Anne has never finished watching Smash because she's still saving like the last 4 episodes?
The last two.
For something.
The last 2.
She's still saving them. I need her to watch it and understand how it quote unquote ends.
It's funny that if any time there was to like watch something, it might be the end of the world / a pandemic that I've just lived 11 months through. And yet I didn't finish Smash. So I feel like now you're inspiring me. I'm going to finally finish Smash.
Yeah.
And The Morning Show, because I think they're companion pieces. I think Smash and The Morning Show. And you know what? Actually, The Morning Show is more like Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. That is its tone. I know.
That's not a good endorsement.
It's not an endorsement. It's not an endorsement. But actually, I think it's closer to that than it is to Smash. But that one scene, one of the best things of all time. But yes, okay, great. I'm going to finish Smash. I'm going to finish The Morning Show, and I'll meet you back here next week.
Now that the pandemic is hopefully, almost in the rear view, we maybe have another year left.
Maybe another 3. I've heard that it's going to be endemic. It's no longer a pandemic. It's just going to be an endemic. It's forever now.
Well, Anne's finally getting her hair, taking her hair risks and watching Smash. So we want to connect Adina to next week's guest, who we are very excited about. And Adina stars on The Morning Show with the Joker, also known as Billy Crudup. Crudup? Crudup?
I don't know how to say it, but I know that he left Mary Louise Parker when she was 8 months pregnant, and that's how I pronounce his last name.
Okay, so Billy was also in the Broadway production of The Elephant Man
In 2002.
with next week's guest.
It's a big one, motherfuckers. Get ready. It's royalty. We have royalty on our show next week.
We'll leave it at that. Until then.
If you're interested in all that morning show content, make sure that you follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at Damian Bellino and at Rodaman. That's my last name with my first name in it. Rodaman, RODEMANNE.
You Might Know Her From is produced by us. Ann Rodeman and Damian Bellino. We also want to thank our consultants at Grumpy Entertainment. That's Jason Jude Hill and Daniel Sears. They are just the bee's knees and make sure that we continue moving and shaking in this, I don't know, I'm going to say we're a well-oiled machine, folks.
Yes.
And all that editing you hear is also by the great Daniel Sears.
And an extra special thanks to Gang. Gang's music underscores all of the episodes. You can stream and download Gang's music on iTunes or wherever you listen to music, folks.
UK hot.
Bing, bang, bong. I can't stop. It's one of the best songs that's ever been on TV.
They're number one on the iTunes charts.
Wait, really?
In like the UK, yeah.
That's the only chart that matters to me. It's like, that's Kylie Minogue's chart as far as I'm concerned.